9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Stadium Connect North. Today, we are having some very special guests. We are doing an interview with the Lumote devs. First of all, I would just like to apologize for the delay. We had a slight problem with the scheduling for our interview. Yeah, just a slight.
Yeah, I made a big mistake and got time zones mixed up, so I apologize, everybody. I especially apologize to Kyle and Michelle, who we'll be talking to here from Luminawesome Games. So I really appreciate them being able to adjust and still come on the show here to talk to us and the Stadia community.
Exactly. So today, as interviewers, we got myself, John, and MM2K. How are you doing, guys?
Woohoo! Good.
Excited,
happy
man.
to be here. Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be very fun. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring the most special people in today's video. So we got Mrs. Michelle and Mr. Kyle. How are you doing, guys?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know about the most special.
The bestesses, right?
Yeah. This is my French way to say that. We're very excited. I can see that it's still daylight where you guys live, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As you can see, it's pretty dark.
Yep.
Oh man. But no, thank you so much, you guys, for coming in. We are pretty excited about the game. The first time I've heard about it with Wired Production got me excited because this is absolutely the type of game that I want to play. So as a first question, we'd love to know how Luminawesome Games came to fruition. How did it start? How did you guys started this as a company?
So, on my 30th birthday, I was working at United Front Games. Sorry, there's like a little bit of a delay in the monitor. I was working at United Front Games. We finished Sleeping Dogs, and we were just working a bunch of stuff. And I decided I was going to quit, forget AAA, and go on indie. And basically, Michelle and I were like walking around in Whistler, and we were trying to come up with names for indie studios. And that's kind of how it all started. We were like, Luminawesome, we like glow in the dark things, and we say awesome a lot. Let's make a game company.
Really deep stuff here, guys. Like,
yeah, I can see. Oh, I see. Yes, I can understand this. Very deep.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that always stuck with all the other prototypes and stuff we worked on was this idea of bioluminescence and stuff, just as sort of in an art direction, a visual theme, something that we always thought was really cool. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. We didn't set out with any other objectives other than I didn't want to work in AAA anymore.
Nice. Sleeping Dog is one of my spouse's favorite
man,
games. Yes, she bought the game 3 times, I think, like so far. Yeah, she really likes it. She bought the definitive edition. She bought them all.
Nice.
So from what I understand, you guys are both co-founders, but you have other people in your team. So how many of you guys are, and like what is everyone's role?
There is 4 of us,
Mm-hmm.
plus our buddy Warren, who he's kind of like our Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, we tricked him into helping us do all the consoles.
It's funny.
Really, it was like Kyle and I, and then we tricked our friend Aaron, who he's like one of our best friends. We're like, oh yeah, here's this like prototype we're doing. What do you think? He's like, oh, maybe I'll like join. So he was the first friend we
Free.
kind of built in. And then he was doing like all the engine and coding stuff with Kyle. And then we were like, oh, we need some audio. And Aaron's like, oh, I have like a friend from back in the day.
Yeah, nice.
Which is Paul Ruske. And so we met up with him and we talked about the game and just sort of had really similar ideas of how audio and sound should be in it. And so we're like, as with all indie games, we have 0 funding to start. So it's just like, yeah, you'll totally get some like percentage of it. It'll be great. We can all put in work.
Yeah. Let's start a band.
Yeah.
Might as well, yeah. Forget the indie scene now, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But I've been watching your developer vlogs that you've got posted on Wired Production, and just to tell the chat, like I really recommend these. They're really informative, and it's really nice to see the adventure that you guys got through for creating this game. So I highly recommend it to the chat to see that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now let's jump into the game. So can you guys tell us a little bit about the game? What's the story about around Lumote? What type of game it is? What's the objective? What's the genre and everything?
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
So much better. Because of COVID, we had this so rehearsed pre-COVID.
Yeah, I knew it.
Going to PAX and everything. Now,
Yeah.
like every time.
It's all relaxed now, right?
Yeah.
Like-
Okay. Well, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Elevator pitch, go.
I'm not
Okay.
going to do the elevator
Oh,
pitch.
okay.
I forget.
Yeah.
Lumote. I'm just going to say what it is. Lumote is a 3D puzzle platformer, and it takes place in this big, crazy, almost like an open world. Like the whole game is there, and you're on this quest to overthrow the Mastermote, and you do that by taking possession of these different creatures, and sort of manipulating them to solve puzzles and progress. How's that?
Pretty good. Pretty good. The main the character you play, a little squishy Lumote.
Lumote.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, do you have one hiding there?
Oh.
Ooh,
always
kind of
have.
surprised. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
Nice. So I've always been curious, who made these? Did you guys crochet them yourself?
Yeah, Michelle crocheted all of them. I made
Wow.
a few spots, but yeah, Michelle designed the pattern,
Wow.
and the pattern's actually on our website.
Yeah. So
And on our
everybody can
Discord.
make a little crochet Lumote.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, as a matter of fact, in our Discord there, we've got a lot of fans of Lumote, and we were talking about it, and we saw the Lumote, the crochet, the plushies around. We're like, oh, I wonder if we could buy them. How can we do it? And we stumbled across the crochet pattern that you have on the site there, and we have one particular person in on the chat here, Rebellica. She's been going crazy
It's
with
nuts.
crocheting these her Lumotes here, and she's already come up with these here, which are totally awesome.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we're all like in Discord, we're like, oh my god, like, can you sell these? We'll buy them off you. We want them so bad. It's just like a little piece of the game. Meanwhile, the game hasn't come out. Sure, that we could play the demo and stuff like that, but we're already so invested in these Lumotes and the stuff that
Yeah.
Rebellica has been crocheting here over the last couple of weeks.
But-
And I know she's coming to your Discord as well. And
Yeah.
she's been asking for tips and questions and stuff like that. And she said, she goes, John and Ninja, I'm working on these. I'll send you some updated pictures here so that you could show on the interview. And sure enough, this morning she sent over these pictures here, and it was so awesome. And every time we see it,
And
It's
you know,
pretty epic.
good thinking of her too is that, you know, Lumo, since it's like in the luminescence thing, like it's cool that
Oh my
she
God.
went ahead
Oh,
I didn't
and
see that one.
she got the glow in the dark wool. So it's very cool.
That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
I know she had mentioned that she was going to grab the glow in the dark wool, but I hadn't actually
Yeah.
seen them glowing yet. That's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's very Lumo type, you know, like she was it was really good thinking of her for sure. Oh man, I love it.
Yeah,
But
that was so awesome.
yeah, when you guys like you know, I was really interested in Lumo, but when in the dev blog, when you guys talk about the open world aspect, how you can just look up and see all of your progress and look down and see all of what you're missing. I find this so cool. I feel like I've never seen this before. And I know that you guys like to say it, and I think it's a good thing to brag about because it just, I don't know, I really like the visual of how you guys thought about that. So and we'll be talking about the engine also later on because we're really curious to see, you know, how it all works. But before we go with that, I just have some more questions here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so something that we were curious about is how long do you guys think that the game takes to complete just on a regular playthrough?
First playthroughs were like 4 or 5 hours.
Like the regular time or like the fastest time?
No, like first
Oh.
playthrough. We've never played the game before.
Yeah,
We don't
30
have,
minutes.
you know how to
like-
move
like-
a camera and do the thing, but I think
like
it was-
like
I
a
think it was
casual
about 5 hours.
Yeah,
player.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we had actually already released Lumo just before COVID.
Oh,
Like
Yeah.
literally February 20th, 2020.
Mhm.
Wow.
And it was after that we partnered with Wired. They were like, "Oh, hey, you guys have a really cool game.
Oh,
Do you want to work with us?" And so that was when it was pulled off Steam. When we re-release now, we're gonna have an extra 15 puzzles Michelle did.
holy mackerel!
So there was like the
Wow.
original 50 or so, and then 15 new ones in like kind of a new world. That'll make sense when you play it the way the worlds work.
nice. Very nice. So there you have it, guys. I actually didn't know that, and it's cool information. So Lumo was on Steam beforehand, and so you guys got a partnership with Wired Production, which is an excellent company in my opinion. They release some very cool stuff. They're very open with the community, and I really like them. So that's very cool. 15 more puzzles, which probably came from the brain of Michelle, right? Because she is the puzzling person, puzzling brain of the company. So that is very cool.
Yeah, Wired has been super awesome.
Mhm.
Like, did a way better job than I did at marketing everything.
Yeah,
as shown by the fact that you had no idea we were out for the first time.
That is true. That is
she had a
true.
lot of good intentions. Michelle actually recorded a lot of that B-roll over the 5 years or
Oh my
so
goodness,
of development. we
so
had
much
at the
video
time.
stuff, and then I put like a handful of videos out. I'm very happy that you've been enjoying the devlogs and that somebody can actually see these, like all this archive footage I made.
Something that I noticed with the videos is the person, whoever's playing, is very comfortable with the puzzles. Like they really go through it very quickly. Like, oh my gosh, like they really know how to. Like,
That's for sure. Matt, he's our he's been my main sort of like development contact with Wired. And he's been doing all the QA work for me, so he and I iterate a lot. And so actually, we added some new achievements, and one of them is a speedrun achievement to beat the devs. And the devs in this case is actually Matt
Okay.
And he's even got it down like under, I think he's under an hour now to do the whole thing.
Oh wow,
So
that's crazy.
yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait.
And
I've
there's like
already.
some physics exploits there you can use to get through stuff. I'm sure he's using that stuff.
Oh man, I can't wait to give it a try. I finished the demo 3 times because how
wow.
excited I am. Yeah, and it's funny that you talked about achievement because that was my next question. We were gonna ask if there were any achievements, so that's good to know. Can we get like a rough estimate, maybe, if you're okay to talk about them? Good. Can we get a rough estimate of how many achievements there are, and maybe like how long does it take to 100% the game?
So 13.
Yeah, there's 15. I just had to like
Hook it up
hook
to
that
Epic.
stuff up for Epic Store, so I know exactly how many.
Very nice.
Some are just the general stuff. You know, we wanted to like encourage people to actually complete it because a lot of people don't finish games. So the primary set of achievements are there's like sort of the 9 base achievements, and then there's 4 that are kind of like pro ones. One is going to be the speed run. That's going to be pretty tough to beat. And then there's like one for playing through both worlds without dying, which is also going to be a pretty tricky one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then another thing that we added for this release is collectibles. So you can go through and collect these like little gold collectibles. And when you collect all of the particular type of collectible, then it unlocks like a little model viewer, so you can like view some of the characters in little isolated rooms and zoom in and out, and just like a little bit of stuff to see the artwork.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you guys just continued working on the game, even though you already had like completed work. I'm just happy that like even if there's some people who already played the game, they'll have more stuff to go ahead and
exactly.
They'll really enjoy that. So that's all the questions that I had, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead with John, who has some more questions for you guys.
Okay. So I have a question kind of in the same category as the ones that NinjaGuy X was asking you. For Lumo, where did the idea come up for this? Like, how did Lumotes like become to be?
Origin story.
Wanna do that one?
Yeah, so I mean, Kyle and I were both programmers, and Unreal, they were having a little game jam, and we were just like, oh, that'd be fun to do. And so the theme for that was Bump in the Night, and we made a very different game from what it was now, but it was just like a little glowing cube, and when you like hopped, the light would expand out. I remember that game actually ended up winning the game jam. And then from there, we really enjoyed that idea of like this light expanding and triggering things. And so from there, we started prototyping some more stuff, and it slowly morphed into Lumote.
Oh, wow. That's
little
awesome.
Cube to like little squishy thing. Very long journey.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now I guess what we'll talk about maybe if we can elaborate a little bit on. So you created a custom game engine for the game, our engine. I don't know if maybe you can elaborate or talk on maybe some of like the challenges that you came across while creating the engine and implementing it, in the game, or maybe even like the reason why you went with your own custom engine as opposed to using another engine that's already developed or on the shelf.
Yeah, so that was something Arn and I were working on as an idea. Actually, when we worked at U of G together, for games. Basically, we kind of just wanted to. That's like what we did in the past. What we were doing on all the AAA stuff. I guess we didn't really totally escape AAA. And yeah, so it was just, we had some ideas kicking around, and we were having some struggles with Unreal. Certain things we were doing at the time, with the way we do all the puzzle authoring. It's like a voxel system that we made. But authoring those voxels, it would just crash. I mean, long and short of it, is it would just crash in their sort of physics system, and we were just having a hard time there. So we just said, you know what, let's like see if some of these ideas we've had, maybe they can turn into something and it'll be, you know, more productive for us. And that took us down for about 6 months, where Arne and I were just iterating on that to get it back up to where we could author the same puzzles that Michelle was authoring in Unreal.
Ooh, nice.
And then the iteration to actually get all the rendering done was, you know, incremental over the rest of the project. But the bulk of the work was about 6 months.
Yeah. Wow, that's not too bad, really. Wow, that's interesting. So, as you know, we're a Stadia-centric show and all about Stadia and cloud gaming and whatnot. And we know that Lumote was just recently announced that it's going to be coming to Stadia. So I don't know if you can comment on as far as like the process of bringing Lumote to Stadia. Were you involved in any of that, or you know?
Part, yes, that's actually Warren.
Yeah.
Warren did that.
So, our other friend we tricked.
Yeah, a friend of ours who was not in the primary development for Lumote, but definitely has like helped us. You know, since we signed on with Wired, we've had Warren work on a few different things. He helped with some of the Xbox porting as well, and he did the Stadia work. And Stadia has these different features that they were working towards making it as easy as possible to bring new titles on, and that means not necessarily doing a Linux port, right?
Right.
So we're using some of their I forget what I think they just call it like the Stadia porting library,
Like the
low charge porting.
Yeah.
and it uses Proton, or not Pro. It doesn't use Proton. DXVK, Lumote.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
it
they're
kind
using
of
the
like
emulation, I think. Is that the emulation?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not so. I guess it's kind of emulation in a way, but it's really just like a layer that sits on top of Vulkan, and just translates the stuff. So they use that. I mean, obviously we know lots of Proton titles, or games that use Proton. It's just really good, right? On PC. So
exactly.
That was the shortest path to getting us working there. And then Warren, the custom stuff, Warren spent a bunch of time making sure that it like supported the Stadia controller. You know, because it's just like, when I say lots of time and supporting, I'm just talking about the nuances of like, you need to have these button icons, and the controller configuration needs to work like this, or so we have like, it's sort of like this weird hybrid. It's part Windows with the porting library, and then part native support for things like Stadia controllers.
Okay, so I guess another question would be, again, I don't know if you could talk about it. If not, that's totally fine. The idea of bringing Lumote to Stadia, is this just something recent, or is it been planned for a couple of years, like before COVID, or
it was recent. It wasn't even something that I was aware of. To be honest, when I saw that there was, an announcement that Stadia was closing down Stadia Game Studios or whatever, I wasn't really following Stadia at the time. I just had my nose down working on Lumote, trying to final this thing. So it just, I didn't really know what the status of Stadia was. And it was I believe it was something that Wired was talking with Google, because they wanted to bring like a bunch of their catalog, just have like a Wired bundle. I'm not really sure all the different stuff there, but I think the goal is to they want to work with Google and get some more titles on Stadia.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good. Yep. So approximately, do you know like how long the port or the work to bring Lumote to Stadia has taken? It's like, several months over the past year,
long.
or
not
long.
Maybe,
Nice.
Yeah, I think it was only maybe like a month part-time.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Holy mackerel!
Wow.
Yeah, it was really quick. I mean, Warren is also like an extremely senior developer. It's just like,
Right.
here, go ahead.
He's too competent for Luminawesome, right?
Yeah, well, he's like someone that we've been also working with since UFG, and we actually still work together at a like we have real jobs outside of doing the indie thing. We work for a company called Jetpack Interactive, and
okay.
we're doing some work for Sony right now, Sony Santa Monica.
Oh,
nice.
okay.
I can't really speak for any of this Sony Santa Monica stuff,
yeah,
other
I know.
than to say we ported the God of War, that little name
Yeah.
drop. We just did that PC port.
We were hoping you wouldn't say that, but that's okay.
But yeah, so Warren is like a top-notch programmer. So I mean,
Nice.
it's no surprise that he gets
That's
it done
awesome.
fast.
Wow. So basically, like Warren's the man, right? Like you can say,
Yeah.
"I need you to do this," and Warren works his magic and waves his wand and does it all.
He
That's-
just like very quiet and angrily finishes anything.
Angrily finishes.
Yeah.
You hear
That's
him
funny.
like swearing but muttering like.
He doesn't actually swear very often. You have to get him really angry.
That's cool.
Oh, that's
He's
awesome.
very, very tempered.
Yeah.
So going back to our engine, the custom engine that you created for the game, is like if somebody else wanted to use that engine to create a game, would it be fairly simple for them to do, or is it something like you've got your customized like coding and things in there that it was, wouldn't be maybe as easy for someone else just to pick up and use if you licensed it out?
It is meant for us to make new games. This isn't this isn't like a proprietary thing, but it's really just like a tools meant for us to do things efficiently the way we want to do them.
Okay.
People, if somebody wanted to make a game with it, they could for sure. It wouldn't be very easy to do it for Stadia, probably. Well, it would be about as easy as it is to do it for any platform other than PC. The PC, the PC stuff is just a lot easier because it's just a lot more straightforward. Eventually, we like to get there. Arn and I have talked a little bit of open sourcing.
Okay.
But who knows? Who knows? Just gotta find time to do all this stuff. The summer's coming. Let's be real.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Oh gosh. Okay.
I mean, like, we
So.
talked about like future games too, where it's like, oh, if we were going to do quick like prototypes for them, we'd probably do it in like Unity or Unreal, just because it's so much faster to just like get up and running. But if it kind of like Lumote, if it was something like we really were interested in continuing on, we'd probably go back into like our engine.
Yeah, I would say if you just wanted to port something, like if you're trying to make something and hit a bunch of platforms, I mean, Unreal and Unity, they hit everything. They're great.
Use ours, just stay away from our engine.
I don't know.
But-
I mean, I'd be happy to have more people use it, but
I understand. Like, it's just that you guys built Lumote around the engine at the same time, and I bet like right now there might be a lot of workaround that needs to be done right with the engine, just because it's like it's still kind of like a work in progress kind of engine.
yeah. And if you think about something like Unity or Unreal, they provide everything, right? There's like a really robust editor and like an undo system works. And, like it runs on a PC and a Mac and Linux and all these things. And it's very consistent. What we have is it's more like a hobby car, like a kit car. And it can go really fast and it can do certain things, but like it doesn't have Windows.
So let me ask you. let me ask you this. So, like, does it do anything different than the Unreal Engine? Because there must have been a reason why you guys went with the custom engine instead of that Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah, it does a lot less, and that allows us to have better performance.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh, okay. Not less overhead, less bloated, more specific towards what your needs are.
And the way we are solving problems the way we think about it. And in Unreal, when you're solving problems in the Unreal way or Unity in the Unity way, there's certain restrictions and there's certain just like overhead, right? It works this way, and it's robust in this way because it takes this much extra time to do something per frame, and we don't have that. We do have that, but we've balanced it differently, right? We don't have to solve as many general problems.
I think when you guys were first switching over to the thing that I thought was like kind of funny, where it was like specifically about like lighting, and there was something with Unreal where it was just like you weren't getting the exact lighting that you wanted. So, and it was because something in their libraries was messing you up. And you're like, if I wanted to get like tripped up by code, I want it to be my own code that's screwing me over, not somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in our end, we're like, this way you know where everything is going. It's like, oh, okay, well, don't have to dig through all these different like layers to find out why something's not actually lighting the way or doing whatever physics thing.
Yeah, and I understand that because in future games, because it's your own engine, it'll be kind of quicker because if something is wrong, something's happening, you guys know exactly, oh yeah, this piece of code that I did. Okay, yeah, that makes very much sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, and then the last question that I have for you, or anybody on the team, Luminawesome Games, do you guys use Stadia, play Stadia at all, or don't have the time really? You're so busy, or just curious?
I haven't really played Stadia. I haven't played any games. I played like Ratchet on PS5 for a couple hours. And I think that was the last thing I've played.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't really been playing a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, John, can I throw a shameless plug in there?
Sure.
If you want to get your feet wet with Stadia, we have a Division 2 clan, and we're called the Old Dirty Blasters. So feel free to join us. We'll have a great time. All right, just want to throw that out there.
I'm actually, from someone who's kind of ignorant about streaming games, like, what is it that draws you guys into it?
I'm gonna let John answer that one because it's pretty good at it. Yeah.
So for me, it's the simplicity, not having to worry about having a dedicated box or a piece of hardware under my TV. I can play, my computer, my tablet, or I could play on the TV, the phone as well. Not having to worry about storage space. We know, like with the new consoles and stuff like that, the storage is extremely expensive to upgrade, and just like not have to worrying again about like updates or it's all seamless on our end. All we do is we launch the app, we pair the controller, and we're in the game and running off. So to me, like that's really exciting for me, being able to play on any screen I own without having to worry about the downloads. I purchase the game, or I try my trial, I try my demo, and within seconds I'm up and playing. And that's what really excites me, just not having to worry about any of those other accessories or updates or hardware or things like that.
The technical minutia just goes away.
Yeah. And I know some people are like, well, you don't really own the game. And the thing is, you never own a game, right? The end user license agreement is you're purchasing a license to play the game. Whether you have a disc, a cartridge, SD card in your hand, that's not yours, right? You have that license, right? And same thing like with digital. Oh, well, at least I have it on my hard drive. Well, okay, but you still don't own it, right? So, and there, some people argue, they'll say, well, if you're streaming it, it shouldn't be as much money. So I'm saying, okay, the developers put the same amount of work into creating this game. Just because it's something I can't hold in my hand, you're telling me instead of being, we're in Canada here, let's say for a full price, $79.99 for a game, it should be $59.99 or $39.99. No, you mean, just like you two there, you've put your hard work, your blood, your sweat, your tears, all that work in it. So to me, it's valued at the same, regardless if I have something in my hand to say, yes, I own it, or if I'm streaming it on my television or tablet or any device.
So if I can add to that, real quick too, because I know we are very appreciative of their time. I don't want to waste it, but I think one of the biggest things that get overlooked with Stadia is not just for straight up gaming, but for content creation. That was my goal in using Stadia. It's like, I'm going to spend 99.9% of my time on the computer. You know what I mean? But as I would buy a new card, and that was $11,000. And then 2 months later, it's not up to speed with the next game. You don't have to worry about that with Stadia. And then I don't, and I'm not fighting to try to get 60 frames per second. Stadia works good at a stable frame rate. So all I do is go to stadia.com, click on the game starts. It's not bogging down my resources. And that's what really turned my mind towards using Stadia more and more and more, is I would be able to just boot up the game, Borderlands 3, Ghost Recon, and then just go live. And it was like freedom. It was like, that scene from the Titanic where your hands are like sticking out. You know what I mean? It was the best feeling as a gamer that I've had in 30 plus years. So that's just another thing to think about, is the streaming aspect with Stadia.
I know they got this. One thing that I was always really curious about was all the latency, right? With the internet. Stadia actually has this really interesting they have this really cool feature. If you're really, really working to optimize your Stadia game, you can actually draw these little boxes of priority all over the screen.
Oh wow!
And so then it will stream different parts of the screen at different rates. So you can have really, really high speed, middle of the screen, and then slow it down as it goes out, or it will always send new frames for those things. But stuff that on the edge of the screen is whatever, it can just basically send a smaller image, right? That's one of the really, really cool things that was in there.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially for a racing game or something too, right? You're like, well, I don't care about the size of the screen, and you can adjust them dynamically. So when you're going slow, you could make it bigger, but as you're going faster and faster and you've got more motion blur on the sides, you could just I don't care about any of this. It's just blurring it anyway.
It's very exciting for people who would like to develop mostly natively for Stadia or for cloud gaming. This would be perfect for spending time with that, because I can imagine porting a game that would require a lot of time. Maybe that's not really necessary, right? For these type of cool features. So that makes sense. Now,
it kind of ties into another really big feature that's, people are talking about a lot more, especially because of VR, but it's going to improve games in general, is this idea of variable rate shading.
Yeah.
So this idea that you can choose different pieces of the screen. Sorry, pieces of the screen to render at a lower detail. But in terms of how your pixel shaders execute, so they can render at 4x4 instead of just 1 pixel at a time or whatever.
Wow. It's gonna
be it's all these different I guess that would be considered a software trick, right? Back on say for example back in the Super Nintendo and the Genesis days, right? Genesis didn't have the native scaling, so they come up with a software solution for the scaling and rotation, where I just redrawing the picture and hyper focusing. But then when the Super Nintendo came out, of course that's built into the hardware, so now you don't have to take those extra resources draw. You know what I mean? Like it's just this, like you said, the optimization in these like hyper focused areas. Yeah.
So
make
the variable
something better
refresh or variable rate shading is a hardware feature, but Stadia is it's part of DirectX. It's just like a thing that needs to be done, or at that level. The Stadia feature, obviously, though, I have no idea what magic they use. From our side, it's just like, here's like a box, and the things in this box are more important than the things that are in this other box. And then, and then it can make it stream quicker and presumably have lower latency.
That's awesome.
Here, David P has a question. He says, any Stadia specific features like state share, or crowd choice or things like that, or are you guys thinking of putting some of these features in the future?
I'm not. What's state share? We just have been struggling to port it. We ported our engine from just PC to Xbox, PlayStation.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's fine.
And there's just
state share is basically you take a screenshot of the game, and it kind of you can like manipulate data with that screenshot. So basically, you could, I don't know, you would like someone to try a specific puzzle. You could take a screenshot and then send it to him, and then he could click the screenshot and try the same puzzle kind of thing.
Under like the same factors or conditions or things like that. Yeah.
It freezes that instance, and you can send it and share it out to different people with just a click of a link. And you can, and again, another great creation tool. Like me as a content creator, I can say, all right, $25 gift card to anybody that can do this part of Lumote better than I can. You know what I mean? So
we don't support that feature. Is it something that needs to be supported? That sounds like the kind of thing that it would almost do automatically.
No, it needs to be supported because
choice.
Because it's not really a state save. It's more of it's recording the data that you want it to be recorded.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you load it with what you want to load it. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. In terms of right now, no. Maybe we would add some of those features. That stuff sounds really cool. The next thing I have my eye on is I actually want to get DLSS.
Interesting.
Been meaning to get some of those upscalers because we don't actually we have no anti-aliasing in the game at all. Actually.
Gosh.
The sort of contrast in the way the game is, you don't really notice it, but it's something that it would be nice to have as a better upscaler or anti-aliasing of some sort.
It's still very pretty whatsoever, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're still more than ecstatic to get the game. You know what I mean?
So that brings a question. To me, it doesn't matter, but I know there's going to be people out there that ask, what resolution and frame rate does Lumote run at? Do you know on Stadia?
On Stadia, I'd have to get back to you, but I think Warren said, with Stadia Pro, as far as I know, we're hitting 4K 60.
Okay.
Right.
Woo!
Okay.
Like I said, I know some people. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That just came up because I know there's lots of people. There's the people in the Stadia community that are dedicated. They have databases of all the games, and they've got the frame rates, the resolution, if it supports HDR, all this stuff. Because there are those technical people out there that are just really, inquisitive about it. So I thought, what, I'll ask just to see, if you know. So that's
what's the spec of the Stadia GPU?
It is.
Let me get that to you.
Yeah.
Let me get that to you in a second here. It's so the GPU is a Radeon Pro V340L MX GPU. So it's a server. It's a server GPU. Yeah.
8 gig. Yeah.
They have two of them, but they're very similar. This is one of the that have 8 GB of RAM.
You're like doing the math.
Sorry, Radeon Pro VC?
Radeon Pro V340L. Yeah.
MX.
MX GPU, yeah.
Okay, let's see. What is this comparable to? Probably. I mean, honestly, this thing, it probably runs 4K 60. Warren did all that. I'll have to follow up.
Yeah.
I can send you guys.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. No,
it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a general question. It's okay if you. I mean, regardless, we're gonna have fun with it. I just thought I would ask because there are a small amount of people out there that are worried about that or whatever. So it's totally fine there. I think.
Should rip.
It's okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. So let me see. There's a couple of questions here. Okay, so before we get to MM2K, Granite was asking, while the game supports both, do you prefer to play with a mouse and keyboard or with a controller?
Controller.
Definitely controller.
Yeah. Controller, nice. Okay.
Controller is much easier to do a lot of especially if you want to do some of the trickier jumps. It's a lot easier to that way.
I find the platforming is much more friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I really like that the jump, no matter how low you are, you're still gonna jump at the same height. You guys explained that in the vlog, and it was so cool hearing that, because I don't know, it feels very smooth. It feels very it feels like it's supposed to be like that. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, just little things. We wanted to make the platforming fun and challenging, but not crazy precision.
Yeah.
So yeah, these little. There's so many subtle things that go into the character physics like that.
Yeah. I would have never noticed if you guys never wouldn't have talked about it for sure. Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat here again. Raphael saying, I have a 4-year-old who's excited about the game. Do you know if he can play with a little help from me? Would his son be able to play along if dad's playing?
Oh, yeah. That was actually one of the things. So while there is some tricky sort of platforming you can do, all of the starting puzzles, all of World 1, you can do without just hitting the button, and it's just pretty basic. It's more puzzle solving than it is actual platforming. It's only if you're kind of get really fast through them, then that's when it's a little bit more hand-eye coordination. But one of the things when we were going on to all the conventions and stuff, we would get people with the little kids, and they'd be playing it, and they'd be like, "Go away, mom and dad! I can do this."
She was so small.
Oh,
we were at
so
the Indie
adorable.
Mega booth in Seattle, and we had a mini booth that year. So you get these really, really tall stations, right? They're adult height screens, and even a little bit above, I think eye level is you tilt it down. And there's this little girl, and she's the screens are old TN panels. And you can't even see because it's basically black from that angle. They only have 30 degrees viewing angle.
Yeah.
So we had to put her on a little stool, and the difference, she was like, "Oh, whatever." And then you give her the stool, and she gets up on it, and her eyes just light up. She's like, "Oh wow, this looks so much nicer." And I don't know.
That's awesome.
She was definitely only around 4. There were Comic-Con for kids. So many little kids in Philadelphia. Lots of kids were just playing it and having a good time.
That's
and their
awesome.
Parents were just we're just gonna sit here and watch this thing. I wish we had a release for that.
Yeah.
We should have been. If we were released November 2019, we would have
all the little children
in
Philadelphia.
Oh gosh. So I'm just gonna scroll through here some more other comments here. Thank you for bringing this game to life. You're all really delightful. I'm excited to play your game. Someone asked about achievements. Let's see here. So I Can't See says, do you plan to add Qbert or Splatoon style multiplayer mode since the floor can change colors?
We did actually talk about a multiplayer mode. Oh man. Honestly, one of the questions that we only touched on, but I started on this when I was 31. I'm 38 now.
Oh wow! So it's been in 7 years.
It would be nice to do that stuff. Part of me would love to add multiplayer modes. We talked about both cooperative puzzle solving and puzzle races, where you'd when you're solving the puzzle, you could solve a piece to make progress, or you could move a piece and then it could like screw up the other person's puzzle that they're trying to solve, and then they got to go back and undo. All these things are really exciting, but 7 years, man, I'm kind of done.
Well, you can save those for the sequel, right? Yeah. Lumote 2.
Yeah. It was 2mote.
Hey, whoa, good
hey,
one.
There you go. That's awesome. You heard it here first, right? Oh, okay. Okay, so I think MM2K, if you want to go over and start your questions here, we can then, after you're finished, we can take some more questions from the chat.
Awesome. And it just, again, thank you guys so much for coming. Well, first and foremost, for even making the effort to bring the game to the platform, and thank Angry Warren for us as well. And
I like that that's his nickname now.
Oh my God, I gotta get him to change his name.
Angry Warren.
You tell him we said, grr, thank you. And thank you guys so much for sitting with us. You know, we appreciate you doing that. My first question, I guess, is there any chance that we'll get extra Lumote content if the game does well on Stadia?
Do we want like special Stadia's specific content?
Or just more content?
It could be just for, you know, even for any consoles, right? Like if it does well, do you guys
like
plan
overall?
on,
Yeah.
It's unlikely we would ever do anything that's console, like a platform
specific. Gotcha. Okay.
Specific. If Lumo were successful, maybe we would add some more stuff. Honestly,
and it's funny because it took us a really long time to launch Lumo for the first time.
Yeah.
And then when we put it out and it didn't, I mean, COVID happened, and then nobody, it was like, we would call it like a critical success and a financial failure. The people who played it loved it, but really only a handful. And when that was done, I was like, I've made all the puzzles. I'm good. We're finished. Whatever.
Done with
it. And then Wired approached us, and they're like, "Oh, so what do you think about adding some new content?" And it's just like,
no.
So I already said I wouldn't make more puzzles, and then I did. Yeah. Apparently, I'm a liar that lies, and maybe is the answer to this question.
The one thing that we had actually wanted to do when we started, even the way the world is designed, you can actually swap the puzzles in and out. Mm-hmm. One of the original ideas we had well before Mario Maker came out was this idea of making it all solvable. Basically,
that would
make it user-generated puzzle.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And the idea was you could choose any particular puzzle, and it just needs to have an entrance and an exit. Where's the camera here? So like if this is the entrance and then this is the exit, right? Mm-hmm. All they need to do is make sure their entrance is here and exit's here. And then they could basically build whatever they want, and we could populate entirely new worlds of just user-generated puzzles. So like 50 new puzzles. Give me like the hardest possible game, or give me one that's got the best platforming or whatever. So I feel like if we were to add anything else, I would probably do like an early access and iterate on like a user-generated content tool.
Yeah,
to make puzzles for Lumo.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Let somebody else make the content.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. Your job, yes.
So on to, and I have a series of what I like to call needy questions here. Like, can you give us some info here? Is there talks about what the next game that you guys may be working on would be? And if so, can we get a little hint?
I don't know, because like all three, like I said, this kind of like Kyle, R, and I were sort of like the core where we first started it all out before we like roped in Resque and Warren, where we all kind of have game ideas. So we were talking about doing like a little game jam prototype, like seeing what we like best. So
yeah, we might make 3 prototypes, like
3 prototypes, and jams, see who likes the
best. Driven by a different person, and then just I don't know, put them out. We could make like a little it'd just be like an extra option in Lumote. There's your new content. So it's just like we patch Lumote, and you can just like play these like 3 other games, and then the one people like the most, maybe we make it.
Very cool, honestly. Like, yeah, if you let the people decide which one would be like the best, that'd be awesome for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to do like a water racing thing. Like, imagine Pilot Wings meets Wave Race on surfboards.
Oh,
complete opposite direction. It's a cat. The name is Cat Hoarding Fantasy. Where you just cat.
I love these ideas.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I don't know what Arden's thinking of. I'm sure he's got something.
Something penguin themed.
Yeah, almost certainly it's gonna have penguins. As long as the penguins glow in the dark, it's still Luminawesome.
As long as it glows in the dark.
Okay. So you guys are still like in the prototyping phase, which is cool. So if you guys do produce another game, it's a strong likelihood it would come to Stadia too, right?
Yeah, I think we were probably
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't actually have like a Stadia focus from the beginning. Just
awesome.
Treat it like any other platform.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, streaming. Everybody's doing a streaming thing now too, so it's something that we would for sure probably want to focus on. Like I said, it was actually quite recent. Like, it was only shortly maybe a month before the trailer came out, the announced trailer.
Yeah.
That we were basically finished it. Like, it was really quick, just like a few months from the. It was just people looking to get games into new, like, just to reach new audiences and see what the stuff's all about. And you know, Google's obviously interested in getting it as big and popular as possible, which is great. So yeah, now that I'm more aware, for sure.
And awesome. I know we've talked with several developers over this past year, you know, did interviews like this with other developers. And one of the reoccurring themes that we hear from the developers is how vocal the Stadia community is. Like, when they release their games on Stadia, they're visible. Like, they don't get lost in, you know, the catalog of that. So, you know, you're seeing people gush over, like, you know, Lumote maybe more on Stadia than you would hear for like Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo or something like that. So, you know, it's great. The community is always like very appreciative of anybody who brings their games over to Stadia, because we're so passionate, you know. Exactly, and it's not like we don't play on other platforms, right? You know, we've got PlayStations and Nintendos and stuff like that. Just our preferred platform is Stadia. So it's something, you know, we like to see as it's gaining support. And, you know, there's what sometimes feels like a constant criticism or negative in the media. It's nice to see developers still bringing games over, hearing news from Stadia about making those tools easier, you know, like in this instance here, about a month or so to be able to bring, you know, your game over, so it's not as difficult. And we know that they've made like the certification process easier. So they're doing things, they're still learning, a learning process. I think a lot of people thought coming out the gate it would be equivalent to like Xbox and Nintendo, whatever, who've been in it for, you know, Xbox themselves 20 years now, PlayStation, you know, stuff like that. So there's still that learning curve, and they're still in this, even though game streaming has been around now for well over 10 years, 10 to 15 years, if not longer, it's still in its infancy, right? You know, because of the internet speeds, the infrastructure, the technology, and things like that. So I think like this is very exciting for a lot of us, and we're just very appreciative that, you know, games that are coming on the platform, and we like to, you know, I'm sure like when Lumote comes out here, which I think is still scheduled, it's coming out May the 1st instead of the 22nd.
That's right.
Like yeah. Okay. And so here was a question here. I don't know if you can answer or not, or if you know. When it was the release date was announced, it said so let's see. Lumote's coming out for consoles on, I think it's the 21st of April. It's at 21st or 22nd, and a little bit later on Stadia.
Yep.
Then Stadia has a bi-weekly blog, which they call This Week on Stadia, and we learned that it's coming out May the 1st as a Stadia Pro game.
Mm-hmm.
Then the blog was amended. The Pro part was removed, but the trailer still shows it as being a Stadia Pro game. To your knowledge, or can you comment, is like Lumote still going to be launched directly into Stadia Pro that you're aware of?
That was, as far as I'm aware, it's still all Stadia Pro. I think there's probably just been some funniness there because my understanding is that Stadia has like a 2-week sliding window of releases for Pro. So the 21st just doesn't. Right. If we release it then if you're on Stadia Pro, there was just something about like confusing it. So they just wanted to sync up the release so that it came out with Stadia Pro. It will still be available for non-Pro, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's I think it was just to make sure that anybody who's paying for Pro and getting the they're not getting like the limited version of it, or like the gotcha. Stadia Pro you get like 4K, but if it's not Pro then you don't, or something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was like it can be made available not on Pro immediately. But then if you own Pro, you wouldn't be able to get the Pro version.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah.
I think they just have some, maybe it's an additional certification process. Or, we're through cert and everything. So I'm not,
that's good.
I'm not sure what technical or marketing reasons like that, but it's just, it's a little weird. Sorry, but
no, it's fine.
No, we get it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we were theorizing or coming up with ideas that maybe they just announced it being a Stadia Pro game too early, because like you said, they have those sliding. So we just learned. So this being the first week of April, Friday was April the 1st. We learned about what were the Stadia Pro games for April just a week prior. Right. So we knew that. So we're thinking that, somebody got so excited. It's like, yes, Lumote's coming May the 1st and it's Stadia Pro. And somebody saw, hey, we're not supposed to say that yet. Take it out. But it's still on the Stadia YouTube page under the trailer, coming May 1st, Stadia Pro, which is awesome. Was because that even what we like about Stadia Pro is, and I'm sure you as well, is like it gets, the audience of people that might not necessarily buy the game or even would take a look at it, but if they've got a Stadia Pro subscription, they just click a button. Oh, here's a new game, Lumote. Click play, and here you are. Now you have a whole new audience and of people, because I know, like, at least everyone here on the panel and in the chat as well, like, because of Stadia Pro, we've played games that we normally wouldn't even take a second look at. It's like, I'm not really interested in this. Oh, but it's here. Just click play and go. So it's great to see that Lumote is part of Stadia Pro as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we wanted to run at 4K on as many things as possible. It's it's just a giant screensaver. So it's so satisfying seeing it on like a big screen in 4K.
Nice.
Awesome.
So for sure, it needs to be on Pro.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So last two questions and a request. I know I'm so needy here as an interviewer. The first question is, what advice? You guys have a wide spectrum of experience. And this is so awesome. From AAA to indie, and with the focus on indie now. For fellow indie devs and smaller indie devs, what advice do you have for them if they're looking to also put their games on Stadia?
Is this in terms of already having a game?
Yeah,
and then they just want to port
it? Yeah.
Okay. This is just like, how do you make a game that gets on Stadia?
Can you give us Warren's number?
Yeah, exactly.
You have a friend who's really good at coding.
Maybe
he'll do it for free.
Is like Warren's thing. He he moves to Japan. he wants to like live somewhere else. So he's like, maybe Warren can just live in Japan and port indie games to Stadia for people.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd love that. Advice for indie. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is just to like, I'm a programmer, so it's like so technical. It's like just think about your Linux target, like your Linux version, right? Because using all the porting libraries and stuff, this is kind of like all the Linux gaming guys on Steam and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're super stoked when people port their games to
Yeah,
Linux.
Right.
we've heard about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like the Linux community and the Stadia people, like all you Stadia guys, it's like it's really funny because you actually have the same agenda, which is like you actually want your games to be ported to Linux. But you don't really care about all, like, you like Stadia specifically because you don't have to get into the technical minutia, whereas like the Linux guys are like, I need it on Linux because I care about Linux and everything about the technical minutia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I mean, if you're porting a game from a technical perspective and you want to hit Stadia, just make sure you focused on making your Linux port work, and then Stadia is actually just going to come from that because it's a single platform, and you don't have to worry about anything else. It's not like, oh, I need to test on all these different distributions. It's like, well, you just add one more, but then you cover like so many more people.
Right.
I don't, from a creative perspective, don't be ignorant like I am and actually know where all, like, go and figure out what all the features are, other than like, oh, there's this cool streaming thing. Like, there's actually this level sharing, or not level sharing,
The state share, yeah.
That actually sounds like a really cool feature. Like,
you gotta at least try your own game on Stadia, right? Like whenever it comes out, I hope that you guys give it a try at least.
Yeah, for sure. It's
so
just,
Kyle,
yeah.
I have a question. So, bringing Lumote to Stadia, financially wise, would you say, just on average, because obviously you don't have a specific cost, would you say it didn't cost that much more to be able to bring Lumote to Stadia, like a substantial amount, like it was a reasonable, like for those developers who are saying, because I know some people will say, oh, well, if I want to bring it to Stadia, then it's going to cost me so many millions of dollars more, or hundreds of $1,000s, like based upon like what you said, like it really wasn't that hard. This game specifically, I know every game is different, but generally overall, would you say like it really wasn't that much, like it didn't really cost?
So I'll give you
if that makes
soundbite.
sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Most games are made in Unity and Unreal, right?
Right.
It already works on Stadia.
Okay.
So like
Free.
we made a custom engine. Yeah, we've got to like port it to Linux. We've got to port it to Stadia. There's like certain things we have technical considerations. But like if you've already made your game and you've made it in Unity and Unreal, you just click the button. Like really, like
wow.
I shouldn't say that it's that easy, but it's almost that easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like for people who are saying that type of stuff.
Well, that's great news to know, because we as a group, we constantly raid and harass people on Twitter. No, I don't want to say harass, but we constantly raid and ask people on Twitter, hey, that game looks cool. How about bringing it to Stadia? And the response that we get from indie devs, which spawned that question, thank you so much for answering it, is, oh, well, what does it require? Like, they're taken aback. Like, hold on, I don't want to go through this whole extensive process. And to hear that there is some simplification to it if they developed it through Unity or Unreal, that could be something that's going to spawn a lot of interest from other indie devs. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just it's an unknown, and streaming. If you think about the indie space, it's already like these auteurs and indie developers are artists, and they have opinions. And some of those opinions are technical. I have technical opinions as well.
Also, to be fair, like when you talk to a lot of indies, most of them, like, it's more art heavy. You know, a lot of indie teams, there's more designers and art people and writers, and then maybe there's like one coder. We're like 3 coders. Me, Kyle, Aaron,
and all
senior. And then we brought in Warren, who's also extremely senior. We're all coders, and then one audio guy. So, like, I feel like we're at a bit of an advantage when it comes to these sorts of things.
I mean, you still have to go through certification, of course, and Stadia has requirements about how things get saved and all this kind of stuff. But like I said, I mean, even to port our engine, a month or 2 part-time, and it was done. And then I think it was like a couple weeks of sort of part-time iteration to get through some of the certification things we hadn't accounted for. But not a lot of time. I was certainly worth it. Like, a lot of it's just unknowns, and especially when people get caught off guard, like to have the more empathetic response. It's like you're having a conversation, and somebody's like at an indie meetup, and you're like, hey, you're gonna bring this to this new platform, and they're just like, oh my god. What am I doing? Like another one? My publisher is like, they're ripping me off, and they don't do any marketing. Not that Wired does that. Wired's been absolutely amazing, but
Wired's ripping you off. Okay, I got that noted.
Wired is not. No,
I feel like we might be.
Wired. We have it's been awesome. Like the whole process with those guys has been great. But
nice.
In the indie process, there's lots of this stuff. You always read horror stories about these like little indie publishers and stuff taking advantage of like single person projects, or there's just, it can be a lot. It can be really overwhelming expecting another platform, especially when it's something like streaming and everybody's got their like technical pride.
Right.
So, I think it'll come. I actually think that, with especially Sony, I think Sony just announced a streaming thing too.
Yeah, that combination.
I really think that all of this new support that's coming for streaming from the competitors is also just going to make Stadia more viable too.
Right. Yeah.
It's because people are just gonna be like, well, we already did it for one.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like we have those conversations too. Like, you think when Steam came out for PC and it was all digital, right? People's like, "Oh, I hate digital. and it's going to be the death of video games." Yeah. Well, you look at PC games now. 99.9999999% are digital, right? So, the gaming community has now accepted digital as a viable means of getting their games, and we see now that there's more digital sales rather than physical sales overall. So I, just like you had mentioned there, I think and we're all in agreement here, that streaming is just going to take time. When you see Xbox with xCloud, Sony with PlayStation now, Amazon with Amazon Luna in the US, and things like that, the more awareness just helps bring the more popularity to it. And, it'll probably take another 5 to 10 years for it to become more popular now. I know MM2K, you've done extensive research on it, and it's what, the cloud gaming is what, 2% of
2% business.
Yeah, 2% of the business. So it's still relatively small. So we're young pioneers here who are energetic and enthusiastic, but yeah, definitely. So
it's going to take some time to grow.
Something like Stadia, especially because you can do all this networking stuff, and I don't know, it needs a killer app,
right?
This MMO that you can only play on Stadia, because
I agree.
It needs the low latency that you get, not the low latency between you and the video stream, but the low latency between the computers in the like in the data center, right?
Right. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like I don't know what it looks like yet. Probably won't be us, but I'm sure somebody will do it, and everyone will just be like, oh well, of course this is the thing. Same thing with VR, right? It needs like it needs something that just sets an example, like completely changes the way we think about gaming on that platform.
Yeah.
Right.
And then from there, it's like everybody will start copying it and discovering like all the new things that can happen down that path.
Right. Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet, at least to my knowledge. That has.
Right. Yeah.
That hasn't happened in VR or streaming yet.
Yep.
Cool. I think the industry learned in 2013 from Xbox that you can't force innovation on people. You know what I mean? Like they have to accept it, or force innovation on gamers, rather, because gamers are unique. They got to be able to accept it. We can, as the business holders, we may see the vision, but they got to feel the vision. And as great as, if you look at behind the scenes of what the DRM on Xbox One was going to present, I mean, you could share your games with up to 9 people, a whole bunch of cool stuff you could do. Gamers just they weren't psychologically there yet. And I think they've learned from that. So when you look at all of the cloud gaming projections, even in 2027, 5% of the business, you know what I mean? It's going to take time, but it's an inevitability, but it's going to take time for it to become mainstream. So,
yeah. Cool.
Yep. All right. Well, you guys kind of answered my last question because I was going to joke around and say Wired Productions slipped me $20 to ask this question, but what's some good things you could say about them? But you guys have done that. You know, just, and again, on the same theme of, you know, what's an indie developer should look for in a great partner in a publisher. And you guys have said a lot of great things with Wired Productions, and they're great in the fact that they've hinted that they want to bring their whole catalog, right? NinjaGuy X and John, they want to bring their whole catalog to Stadia. So that's great.
Yeah, because we talked with what is it, a week and a half ago, Kyoken over in the Netherlands. They're with Wired Productions to deliver us the moon. And you know, it's the same things where they had released the game, then Wired, you know, approached them, and they came back and reworked the game and released it and things like that. And we hear nothing but good things about Wired Productions. And of course, you know, when they're announcing these games on Stadia, everyone's like, woohoo, raising their hands, going to their Discord, partying, you know, all this stuff, showing that appreciation.
Going the Mamba line to the Discord. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, they understand that they need to be an indie publisher, and that's different than normal. You know, like games, just they get the attention they deserve in the way they need to. You know, like they did that presentation, Wired Live or something, and you know, there's all these different games. Lumo was in there, and we get like our trailer, and it gets however much time it gets. And then there was one game in there that was like, you just walk around Italy and you're painting. And like
probably more than that, right?
I think that was kind of the experience. It was like this sort of like you like learn to paint in the title, but they just gave that game project so much more time, and it just made a lot of sense because the pace is the thing. Like you need to like really appreciate this thing. That's just like one small little thing. It just made a lot of sense to me that you've got all these action games or whatever that you can kind of get the idea, but it was like paced according to the project. And then for us, like Wired, they're so amped. I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we're actually getting like a double vinyl release of
yes, very cool.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I just saw that
you
asked about the merch was your last question there. But you know, that's like really crazy. And this artist they hired to do the artwork is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, nice. I'm just going to hang this thing on my wall.
Did Paul did the mastering of the vinyl, or was someone else did? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Paul mastered for the vinyl. He was sent some specifications and mastered it for that.
Nice.
Cool stuff.
Even like the records are going to be like crazy, like marble
Yeah,
patterns in I don't know. I was like I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
They look
I need
awesome.
to get to that.
So I think I've got one last question, at least from me here. Won't try to keep you too much longer here. Seeing as you have a wide range of experience, both of you, on AAA titles and indie titles, we often see people argue or saying, "Oh, but it's an indie game." Having that experience of working on both, what would you say to a person who tries to discount, a game that it's not as good as, let's just say, of course they're on different calibers, let's just say Lumo and God of War on PC, right? They're going to say, "Oh, well, Lumo is I don't like it. It's an indie game. God of War is AAA. It's so awesome." Like, what would you say to somebody that has those types of like feelings or that negativity towards the indie game that could maybe kind of like get them to realize?
I mean, I guess I in a way I don't really understand that way of thinking, because you wouldn't have that thought process about a movie, right? Like you have
right.
Marvel movies, but then you have like smaller, but like Clerks.
Right, exactly.
And
what we do in the shadows.
Oh yeah, What We Do in the Shadows. Oh, that's such a delightful movie. But they're different experiences,
right?
But you can get a different type of enjoyment from each of them, and it's just like, do you want to play, the giant boy game, or do you want to like play
man?
Well, it's because like in God of War, you're the boy. So,
right. I know. Right.
Mine is just like, that's a boy. So it's like you're going to be playing, the big budget movie, multiple hours, obviously more cinematic. If you have more money, you pay more people to do these sorts of things.
Right.
But they're going to have like, that story, but this is like Lumote or any other indie game. You're going to get a different tailored experience, and maybe it'll be smaller, but it can like hit you in a different way.
Yes. Yep. That's what I was going to say. There's many indie games that I've played that have had a profound impact, whether story-wise or gameplay-wise, that is just a whole unique experience, rather than, and again, not saying AAA games like, God of War, Call of Duty, and all that stuff aren't any bad, but I've had these really where they almost feel like an intimate experiences with the indie games that really touch. You can see, the hard work and the passion and everything that's been put in there. And so when I see people say, "Oh, well, yeah, but," for example, they'll say, "Oh, well, this year, let's just say Stadia has 20 games out, but 18 of them are indie and only 2 are AAA." Like, they try to use that as like a leverage of saying, well, because it's not AAA, it's not as good as, an indie game. So, it's just interesting to hear your thoughts on, seeing that, you guys have been on both sides of the coin there of AAA and indie, just seeing what you think about that type of rationale.
I mean, and it's also kind of obvious that like large AAA games are going to make more money, because like it's marketing is like a really big thing. That's like one of the major things within. There's so many people making so many really cool small games. Even in like Vancouver, like before COVID and everything, we were going to like little indie meetups, and Vancouver is actually like a super like indie game developer heavy town. So like you would go to these little meetup events and everybody would have these super cool ideas and games. But because you're like one person, you're 4 people, you're doing everything yourself, you have if you go on our Twitter, like your Twitter thing, you have like 100 people. This is sort of a thing too, when we were trying to do our marketing, we'd like read the blogs and they're like, "You should post at least once per day." And it's like, what do I post? I feel kind of dumb. Like,
it's a good example because like Lumote is a perfect example, because it went through both ways, right, of advertisement. Wired Production put a lot more money into the advertisement and see where it came, like where it got the game too. So it's very nice.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. And like if you see those AAA games, I mean, they have like in the SkyTrain station here, they have like a giant like poster for Robot Arrow game. With I'm really bad. Horizon. I'm really
Robot
bad.
Arrow.
With, like,
Robot Arrow game.
Yeah.
I love that title better. I love
Better,
that
yeah.
title better.
She's good at advertising.
you let slip the game you guys are working on for Santa Monica Studio.
Yeah.
Robot Arrow.
Um,
Oh
It's
gosh.
really bad with memories.
Rebellica made a comment here about Valheim being huge last year. This is like a thing, you know, there are genres you can't get a AAA game. It's like,
Right.
you know, you don't, yeah, you just like, you don't, when was the last time you got Valheim in AAA? You can't go and make a open-ended game with basically no story where you just like go off and make your own adventure, right? You don't get that in AAA. You don't
Right.
get that for like $200 million. You get that because like some people like are scrappy and want to go and make something interesting, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Lumo. You know, where's like the AAA Lumo? Like, the closest thing I can think of is probably Portal. Right? That's the closest you've ever seen a 3D puzzle platformer that's AAA.
What do you mean?
It wasn't AAA.
You mean blubby glowy thing game?
Yeah, right? Like,
Yeah.
even like Pikmin, like is Pikmin AAA? I mean, it's a Nintendo.
Oh,
Is it?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Would you consider it? I don't know.
There's a lot of developers on that, right?
There's a lot of
Yeah,
people on
but
it.
Well,
But
but I
maybe
get the sentiment. I get the sentiment. Like the most innovative, forward-thinking games come without that. We gotta have bangs and explode. Come without that Michael Bayish, aesthetic
Yeah.
around it.
Blockbuster.
It comes with.
they're
games.
blockbuster movies, exactly.
Yep.
Right.
So
Yep.
it's like saying, well, the only thing out there is blockbuster movies. I guess it's exactly what Michelle said when we opened this question, right? Or even think about board games, right? Like you buy like a board game and you play a board game, but if you just want to play cards, you just play cards. You don't like go, oh, well, board games are obviously better because they do this thing. It's like, well,
Exactly.
no, I only need a $3 deck of cards to play the game I'm playing. I don't need a board.
Yeah, but it comes with all these pieces, and Monopoly comes with this different
it's
money
way
and
better.
little stuff. It's way better, man. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
So
I think there's a place for all of this stuff, right? Like, I don't know why people fight over like fun. It's like we're making toys. We're making like toys in software form, and people are like, "Oh, this thing is better than that thing," and it's like, why are you getting angry about this, man? Just go have fun. Just go have fun. Like,
It just have fun. Yep.
I don't care. Just like
growing up,
buy my game so I can buy a beer.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, all right. I think that's going to wrap up our interview here. I just want to say a big thank you for both Kyle and Michelle for talking with us here. We originally I screwed up the time here. I apologize, but
no worries.
But
We
had
can enjoy the sun now.
We had a fantastic time talking with you, and just shout out to all our Canadian developers. You guys are so awesome. I know myself, I'm here in Toronto. MM2K's in the US, but NinjaGuy, you're over in New Brunswick here.
All the way on the other side, yep.
Yep. And shout out to Kyle to Cambridge. I know you originally Cambridge. That's where I'm from too. So
Southwood represent.
Glenview.
Glenview.
I feel so left out.
Glenview.
Oh, really? I remember going to South Park for our Southwood, for a track meet one time.
Yeah.
A long time ago. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's awesome. So it's just funny how worlds collide, right? So
totally
awesome. And again, a big thank you, and thank you everyone here on the panel. We appreciate it, and we are looking forward to Lumote here, just a couple of weeks away.
Yes.
You can bet that there will be a ton of people talking about it on Stadia, streaming it, and just having fun with it.
Yep.
So I think with that.
sorry, I was just gonna throw one
Yeah,
last
no,
thing
no, go
out.
ahead.
If
Yeah,
anybody's
for
going,
sure.
if anyone's down in Boston, if you guys are going down to Boston for Indie Mega Booth, Arn will be down there at the Wired booth, showing off Lumote. So if anyone's down there,
cool.
go
Okay.
over and say hi.
All right.
Awesome. Cool. Alrighty, there's a little crocheted Lumote there. We love Lumote. Oh, I guess maybe one other question. Do you have any plans for any Lumote merchandise? I know you've got the crochet pattern out there, and we know about the record.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything else?
He answered this one already. He mentioned that it was only the record. For now. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, just the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to get John the website, so because I know
yeah.
they would love to put that up. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, the plushie thing, we just didn't do. I mean, we didn't do merch for a couple reasons. One, it's obviously just expensive, and it's not really clear whether we can actually even give it all away. It also just ends up being a lot of junk for people. You know, they take it home, and only a few people collect it. This way, with the little plushie ones, it's like if somebody really wants one, then they can, you know, they've got like an official pattern and
can make their own,
maybe learn a new skill, and they probably appreciate it a lot more because like it's theirs.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Alrighty, well, with that, we'll say goodbye. And again, thank you so much, everybody. And
thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
See y'all.
This is super fun.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.